Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our parent meeting. I am Mr. Sherman, the principal here at Lincoln High School. It's great to see everybody here this evening. Thank you so much for taking some time out to join us here in our virtual parent meeting. I am joined by Dr. Sandy Hattar, my 11th grade assistant principal. She will be answering questions in the chat room. So if you have any questions and you need something answered, there is a chat room feature where you can post a question and she'll be glad to respond to it. And if she does not respond, at the end of the presentation, I will go ahead and answer those questions as well. So once again, thank you all for joining us this evening. As my messages have said, we are going to be discussing tonight the Return to Learn, the Track E. We're going to talk about New York State Regents, and we are going to talk about some of the other spring events going on here at Lincoln High School as we go through. So let's begin, because I know everybody's time is valuable. So I just want to remind everybody that these are the assistant principals and guidance counselors if you have any questions for specific grade levels. In ninth grade, nope, that's actually incorrect. That was typed incorrectly. I'm sorry. It should be ninth grade, should be Mr. Kaufman and Mr. Rodriguez. 10th grade is Mr. Sage and Miss Santana. 11th grade is correct with Dr. Hattar and Miss Cerritos. And 12th grade is Miss Swanson and Mr. Barrientos. So that slide is backwards. The 9th and 10th grade got flip-flopped around on there. I do apologize for that. But those are the individuals that if you have individual questions about how your child is doing academically, please feel free to reach out to them so that they can answer any question that you might have. Starting next week, April 12th, the Yonkers Public School is going back to 4 days a week of live instruction. So what does this mean for us? This means that current students that are on Track A or Track B, or otherwise known as Cohort A and Cohort B, are automatically going to be changed to the brand new track called Track E. And they will now be invited into learning live in the building Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. Once again, they are now known as Track E. So when you look on Power School, next to your child's name, there will be a big giant E there instead of an A or a B. They are now into the building on Track on, like I said, Monday, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. Our Track C students, there are no changes. It doesn't impact Track C students in any way. They have been with us since the beginning of the hybrid model in a 4-day-a-week program. They're going to continue in a 4-day-a-week program, but they are still going to be listed as Track C. So they will stay the same, no impact on them. And this starts again this Monday, April 12th. Our Wednesdays are going to stay the same thing that we had today. It's known as our Flex Wednesdays and Wellness Wednesdays, where our students only have a half a day of instruction. They will continue with that, where all live instruction is over by 11:04 a.m. And then they will go on to do asynchronized work or any work that need to be completed. And that is 100% remote. So once again, that is Flex Wednesdays. There is no change to the Wednesdays. Instruction will be full-time Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Flex days on Wednesdays. All students in cohort E, C, and D, except for half a day of instruction, as I said, except for our multilingual learners. We are starting a program next week for our multilingual learners, our ELL students, and we personally invited them to come into the building Wednesdays for a specific program to help them get, better skills at speaking English, writing English, and reading, and doing better in their classes. That speaks here, the multi-learners Wednesdays focus. They will be in the building, grades 9 through 12. They're coming in for 2 hours with a focus on reading, writing, math, social studies, and science. And we are going to assist students with content and skills during these Flex Wednesdays for them. So they'll be excused from their regular classes, our ELL students, on Wednesdays, and they will come in for an immersion program here in the building starting next Wednesday, which we're very excited to get up and running as well. I want to just provide everybody with some information, just remind everybody that even though we are going back to 4 days of instruction, we still take the health screening very seriously here. Every student will be assigned daily as they come into the building. They must fill out their attestation forms that they currently are doing online, and some students do it in the building once they arrive if they forget. And of course, we will go ahead and do this temperature at the front door as well, to make sure that they are cleared to be in the building. Masks are still required. There is no change in the mask. It must be worn at all times while they're in the building, except for obviously when they are in the cafeteria eating. But otherwise, there is, a mandatory mask requirement in the building, and it must be worn appropriately. A lot of people that you see around like to wear the mask where it's only covering part of the face. It needs to be on the nose as well. That does not change. Same health regulations. We want to make sure that everybody's staying safe and that we are doing everything needed to, get past this pandemic. With that in mind, we are still going to limit the amount of visitors to the building. That does not change. So we are going to have very small visitors to the building, but our volunteers, for everybody's safety. So that is, not changing. We will still conduct our contact tracing if needed, along with isolation and quarantine protocols that we have been adhering to since September. None of that changes. The health screening is all the same. And it's very important that everybody understands that they still need to go ahead and fill out that form each day, and that they also want to go ahead and make sure that they are taking their temperature when they walk in the building each and every day. One of the changes that students will notice, even those students that have been here and they started seeing the changes this week, the classrooms do look slightly different. You'll see in this diagram here, there is a little desk there with a partition around it with 3 sides of plexiglass. We have those now installed in all of our classrooms. There are enough for the classrooms that, will hold up to 13 students. So students will still sit, 6 feet apart following social distancing guidelines. Even though the CDC dropped the guidelines to 3 feet, our classrooms are still sufficiently spaced at 6 feet. So we're going to continue that just for everybody's safety. And students are still required to wear the mask even when they're sitting behind the barrier. It's just an extra layer to make sure that, more protection and everybody feels safe and comfortable. So we are making sure we are doing that. And like I said, students started seeing that this week. They were installed over our spring break, and they're getting adjusted to it already. Our cohort A students who are here Monday and Tuesday, and tomorrow when we welcome back in the B students, they will see it for the first time as well, and see how that works. As the school district, they did a great job with the ventilation systems in the building. So the fans are running and moving fresh air throughout the building, and the weather now is changing and cooperating. So windows are going to be open for more fresh air in classrooms, to provide a comfortable space for everybody in the room, teachers and students. Students currently participating at 100% remote instruction. They will continue that. That is not going to change. That is staying the same way it is. So track D students stay the same. There is no difference there. If anybody is interested in changing from track D back to now track E, just please notify your grade level assistant principal, and we will go ahead and put that request in, and central office will let us know when that gets done. They have been pretty good about it. It all depends on our spacing and our size that we have in the classes available. But all you need to know is just notify us, and we will do the best we can to ensure that your child gets back into school if that is what you desire. So please make sure you know that. But anybody on track D, they're going to continue on track D. Nothing will change. They'll still receive the instruction at home the same way they have been all year. The expectations for parents and students, this is still from the beginning of the year, but I just want to remind everybody because, again, we're going to a 4-day instruction, but the expectations are still the same. And I want to thank all of our parents. The amount of communication we have received this year with regards to a family member, being under the weather or not feeling well or received a positive test has absolutely been fantastic. It has been a wonderful partnership with all of our families, keeping everybody informed. And my expectation is that we continue to have that partnership and communicate and let everybody know what is going on so that we can all stay safe. If a child is feeling under the weather, please keep them home and do not send them to school. We need to make sure that, they are coming to school only if they're feeling well, and not, under the weather where we have to send them home or put them in the nurse's office to have them quarantined. So we want to make sure that we are doing that. The season is springtime, and there are, I understand allergies. I suffer from them myself. As you can hear, I'm a little nasally. So there are sometimes, different symptoms that do correlate. But obviously, if a child is, has a fever, sore throat, loss of taste or smell, these are definitely symptoms of COVID. And we do ask that you keep your child home if any of these symptoms come up. And as I said, I can't thank you all enough for all of your support and communication that you have had with us. And I continue to hope that we continue with that throughout the springtime as we try to get through this pandemic together. We are all asking also for parents to notify us, of any changes in a child's family status, if anything at home changes, if anybody else becomes ill, or if a child got in contact with somebody, maybe at their place of employment, or anywhere else that there might have been a large gathering, whether that be a place of worship or anything else, that we are notified of that, so that we're able to do what we need to do here at school as far as contact tracing. So there's been a lot of conversations and a lot of information that has been in the news with regards to the regions. I'm going to try to clarify certain things about the regions because I know that's a big question that a lot of parents have. At this time, the federal government is still telling all states that we must give state exams. It is required in order for states to receive their federal money. They must give certain exams. Here in New York, we are required to give 4 exams that is tied to the federal school education money. That is our English language regions, our Algebra 1 regions, living environment, and earth science. Those are the 4 regions that are still scheduled for this June. All other regions exams have been canceled for June because they are not a necessity for the federal government. New York State Education Department has put in a waiver to the federal government asking for them to cancel the other regions, the 4 I just mentioned. However, we have not heard back yet. So at this time, there are still 4 regions exams that are going to be given this June. And again, those are the English language arts regions, the earth science, living environment, and Algebra 1 regions exams. Those will be given in June. Now, there have been some, changes that New York State has made with those exams. The exams are always tied to New York State graduation requirements. Students cannot graduate from a high school in New York State unless they pass their 5 Regents exams, which is the bare minimum. There's always more, but the 5 minimum, they need it for graduation. What New York State has done in order to make it fair for students in this pandemic, they have taken that graduation requirement away from graduation right now. So students do not need to pass the Regents exams in order to graduate. However, they do need to pass their classes. So what that means is if a child is currently taking algebra, they need to pass algebra in order to go ahead and receive the Regents credit. They will receive that Regents credit if they pass that exam. Same thing with the other exams that I also mentioned. So if a child is taking algebra and fails the class, they will not get the Regents credit, and they will have to either go to summer school or they will have to take the class again next year in a credit recovery program. Now, the Regents in August have been canceled. So if a child is not successful this year and they need to go to summer school, they have the opportunity to pass the class in summer school and get the Regents exemption in summer school as a result of passing the summer school course. Again, the Regents was canceled in August because that's not tied to the federal state aid. So they canceled that, but they are still going to give students the Regents exemption if they pass the class. What that really means, I'm going to try to explain as best I can. All this information I took from the New York State Education Department website. They have a great Q&A section all about all of this. I pulled off most relevant information that I thought would help us this evening in this conversation. So I will go through that and explain to you the best way I can, and then we'll be glad to answer questions to the chat room if you have, or you can call your grade level office tomorrow or any time to ask any individual questions. So again, eligible students may be exempt from the associated diploma requirements for any Regents exemptions. Department approved alternative exams, pathway examinations, and/or career technology education. That's CTE. Assessments that was originally scheduled to be administered in June or August. Students who meet one of the following eligible requirements are exempt from the associated examination related to diploma requirements. So there are three areas in which way a student can be exempt from it. Currently enrolled in a course of study, accumulating in a Regents, department approved alternative or pathway examination, and earn credit in such course of study by June 2021 or August 2021. So that's the example that I just gave a moment ago about passing algebra class. You will get the exemption if you pass the class, or if you have to go to summer school. So that's why it says June 2021 or August 2021 is how they will go ahead and get that. The second way that a child can get the exemption, successfully complete a makeup program by August 2021 in a course of study, accumulating in a Regents. So again, they separated that out for specific reasons because some students in other districts, they take advanced classes in summer school. In Yonkers, our summer school is more of a credit recovery. So we are going to go more bullet 2 for Yonkers, where, successfully completes a makeup program. And that was, again, the example I used. If a child did not perform successfully in algebra and they went to summer school but passed the summer school course, they would then also be allowed to go ahead and get the Regents credit. The third one is if a student previously received credit in the class but was unsuccessful on passing a Regents exam, they now also will get the exemption, because it was our understanding that they took that class and they were intending to take the Regents. So therefore, as long as they received credit last year or during our fall credit recovery program, they will also be eligible for the Regents exemption. That is what, those are the three ways that students are eligible for it. So again, if they're currently in the class and they pass the class, if they go to summer school and they pass the class in summer school, or if they had previously received the credit in the class and they were not successful in the Regents, they now will get the Regents exemption as well. So the biggest question on the Q&A is, are Regents canceled? Because that's what everybody heard. That's how, the Journal News wanted to put it out. That's how a lot of news agencies put that out. Again, the Regents are not canceled at this time. There are still 4 Regents exams that are going to be administered, and those are listed here once again. The Algebra 1, Earth Science. That's the written test only in Earth Science. In past years, Earth Science always had a lab part where students would have to come into the building and do a lab test. Now it's only going to be the written part, which is the multiple choice and short answers, the English Language Arts Regents, and the Living Environment Regents. The other Regents exams, such as Geometry, Algebra 2 Trigonometry, Chemistry, Physics, Global Studies, and U.S. History, those have been canceled. Those at this time have been canceled, and only these 4 will be given. As I said, they are canceled in August. Those 4 exams are not being given. It is just pass the class in summer school and they will receive the credit. Our students that are enrolled in one of 4 courses accumulating in administrative Regents, exemption required to take the associated Regents examination. They are not required. There's no requirement from New York State saying that they have to take the exam to get the exemption. I do encourage all of you to encourage your child, our students, to take the Regents if they're in a class. This way they can see how successful their year was. They'll be able to go ahead and see a baseline of what they learned this year and see how well they are prepared for the following course, specifically in algebra, where they go to geometry and move on. So there is no harm in taking the Regents, but it is not required, but I strongly encourage students to take the Regents. To go ahead and find out who's going to be taking the Regents, in a couple of weeks coming from now, we will be sending home surveys to those students in those classes, so we know how many students will be expected in the building on the day of the exams. But again, it's not required, but it is encouraged that we take them so that we see how well we did this year. and see what happens. Now, one of the questions we'll get to later, but I'll say it here because I know that a lot of people are thinking about it, or maybe you're not, but I'll put it there anyway, is if a child takes the Regents and fails the Regents, it doesn't hurt them. It does not penalize them. It does not hurt them in any way. They will go ahead and still receive the exemption based on passing the class. So again, if a child takes the Regents exam and just doesn't do well that day, it won't show up on their transcript at all. They will go ahead and be, kept in their records, but not on a transcript. And they will still receive the exemption as long as they pass the class. So there is no downside to taking the Regents and not doing well on it this year. So again, that's why we're encouraging students to take it, so that they can see how well they learn this year, and if they have any deficits where we can focus and help them as they move forward. In past years, for the Science Regents exams, they needed to complete 1,200 minutes of laboratory experiences. That was waived this year as well. So they do not need to complete that. That has been waived, and students will be eligible for the exam. That decision was made back in December of 2020, based on the fact that most schools in New York State were in a hybrid model or completely remote, and they understood that it was very hard to conduct labs from a child's kitchen table or a bedroom when they're not in school. So they went ahead and did that as well. Question 5 here, if the 4 Regents examinations are administered, will students still be entitled to an exemption? This is what I just spoke about. Yes, even if a student take the June 2021 Regents examination in algebra, earth science, English language arts, living environment, they are still entitled to the exemption from the associated diploma requirements. So that is there. How will students who are granted exemptions to the exams meet assessment requirements for graduation? Students granted an exemption from any examination are not required to pass such specific examinations to meet the assessment requirements for any diploma type. So again, that's any diploma type. That's the Advanced Regents diploma, the Regents diploma, a local diploma. They do not need to go ahead and take that exam. So what that means for specifically, so let me try to explain that a little bit easier, because I've had some questions from some of my 9th grade parents. So my 9th graders typically take 2 Regents exams their first year of high school. As long as they get their exemption this year by passing their class, they will not be required at any time in the next 3 years of high school to take that exam. So that's what that is saying. So they do not have to. The exemption is there. It's not a 1-year exemption. It is a permanent exemption for any child that earns that this year by passing their class. So it's not that, oh, if I don't take the Regents this year, I'm going to have to take it next year or so. That's not the case. Once you earn the exemption, it cannot be taken away from you. In order for a student to be exempt from June 2021 or August 2021 Regents exemptions, must the student have earned a unit of credit in the course? Yes. That was one of the bullets that I pointed out earlier. That was one of the 3 ways. They have to go ahead and pass the class and receive that credit. So it talks here about students in 7th and 8th grade, but that's from, like I said, the New York State website. That doesn't impact us because our students are obviously in high school, grades 9 through 12. As long as they earn the credit, they will go ahead and receive that exemption. So again, I just want to go over Regents exams before I move on about some other things, and just remind parents that we do recommend and encourage students to take those exams in their respective classes for nothing else but to go ahead and get a gauge of how well they did this year. But more importantly, for our 9th grade, 10th grade, and 11th graders, to get them used to taking exams again, because the reality is once we do come back to school, hopefully in the fall, New York State is going to put these exams back in place, and we want to make sure students are comfortable and prepared for it moving forward. So it's a good opportunity to get practice, to get some seat time, and get used to taking an exam that they have not taken in over a year, because last year's Regents were also canceled in June. So students have not sat for an exam for a very long time. So we do encourage it. And I hope that a lot of you recommend and encourage your child to take the exam so that they can see how successful they have been. And like I said before, then we can focus on if there's any deficits of how to help them as they progress through the next couple of years here in the high school as well. Coming up, we do have other exams coming up in May. We have our NICET exam, which is for our ELL students. So that is also going to be given this year by New York State. That is a test that students have to come here to the building for language proficiency. So that will be done, beginning a couple weeks from now. It's a 3-part exam. So that starts. And then in May, we also have our advanced placement exams. College Board last year gave those exams virtually. All students participated in those exams from their house. The exams were cut from a 3-hour exam down to a half-hour exam. And students were able to complete them at home on various devices, such as cell phones, tablets, computers. College Board this year is now going back to a regular exam format, where they are a 3-hour exam once again. And students still have the option to take it at home, but there's a lot more requirements for the technology at home. They are not allowed to use their phones anymore. Computers must have certain operating systems and certain amount of RAM in the computer that can handle it. And there is a lot of other technology parts that go along with it that I went ahead and we shared with the parents and students of the AP classes. But I do want to make sure that we're all aware of that. This is the calendar of the exams. We are offering them all here in school. We will do them here following all social distancing protocols. We were very successful this year offering the SATs to our seniors and also the PSATs to our juniors who signed up for it. And we administered that, if I remember, back in mid-January. So we were very successful with that as well. We'll be following the same procedures for the AP exams and making sure that we go ahead and keep that. The rest of the conversation is about spring activities. We are still moving forward with our sports program here. The district has moved a lot of sports around. Right now, we are in what they call fall season 2. Which means we currently have our boys soccer, girls volleyball, and our football team playing. And they're all doing very well, I must say. Our volleyball team is doing great. They have been, all over it. They've, undefeated right now, I believe, in the city. And our boys soccer team, they unfortunately lost yesterday, but prior to that, we're doing very well, along with our girls soccer team, which is currently playing Yonkers High right now as well. This Friday night is the Brave and Force football game. Spectators only if you have a child playing or allowed. But that is the fall 2 season that we are currently on. That will be ending soon. And then we also then have our spring sports begin April 19th. So if you have a child who is interested in playing baseball, softball, lacrosse, or track, they need to have a physical into the nurse. If they are currently on a team, that physical obviously is good. They don't need to get another physical if they're currently playing on a team or played on another team in the winter in basketball and so forth. But by April 19th, we are starting that. If you have any questions specifically as it relates to sports, please contact Mr. Kaufman, my 9th grade assistant principal. He oversees our athletic program here at Lincoln High School. So once again, that is baseball, softball, lacrosse, and track. Both lacrosse and track are district teams. They are combined teams because they don't usually have much interest from each school to have their own teams. Baseball and softball are our teams here at Lincoln, but all physicals come into our nurse and we handle that here. I do want to go back one slide. I did want to speak about this. I do apologize. And it's our grading policy. This is extremely important. Last year during the pandemic, when we first closed schools down, the district changed the grading policy. They went ahead and made all classes a pass-fail or a pass with distinction. So you remember on report cards, you got a P, an F, or a PWD. This year, we went back to our regular grading policy that was adopted on December 2019 at the board meeting. And it's broken down as follows. Marking period 1 is worth 22.5% of your grade along with the other 3 marking periods. And then you have a 10% for your final exam. That makes up the entire grade for the child for the year. When they changed the grading policy in 2019, they removed midterm exams and left the final exam as part of the child's grading. So at the end of the year, they will receive a 4th marking period grade. And then right next to it, it will have a column that says Y1, which is for the year. And that's the overall final average. That's the one that tells you if the child passes the class or not. If marking period 4, let's say hypothetically, says 70, but with all the other grades added in, column underneath Y1 has a failing grade, unfortunately, that's where the credit would have been earned. So if it's a 60 as a final average, that does not work. It's not fourth marking period. It is the overall average. We're currently at the end of the third marking period. The third marking period ends on April 16th, which is next week. And then grades are going to be posted by April 22nd, I believe, is the deadline. And that is all available in PowerSchool. So please make sure that you are checking PowerSchool on a regular basis for assignments, for attendance, for all information that you can get about your child's grades right there in PowerSchool. But it's important that we understand the grading policy and how we go ahead and award credit. So that is, one of the things that we need to make sure that we know as we go towards the end of the year. We spoke about sports. This is just lacrosse. This is, again, it's the Yonkers Public Schools lacrosse. Season starts April 22nd. There's girls lacrosse and there is also boys lacrosse. So that is, a sport that is very big and upcoming all around New York State. It's very big, throughout the country. So if students are interested in it, we have a team here now available, and that, they should take advantage of that. There is a QR code right there if you want to, take a picture of that. Or again, you can go ahead and contact Mr. Kaufman for more information, or you have the coach's information there as well for both teams. So at this time, if there's any questions, I saw a couple pop up in the chat. Not much else came up that way, but we wanted to make sure that we were speaking with you and letting you know what was going on as we transition back to 4 days a week of learning. So I'll just recap that in case any questions come up, because I do see we have some more attendees that came and joined us. Starting Monday, all of our students who were previously on track A or B will be coming into the building now on track E. They will be coming in the building Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. And then they will go ahead and have same thing on Flex Wednesdays. Wednesdays do not change. They still say as a Flex Wednesday. So that is important. One of the other things that I think, is important to mention, typically in a normal year, we run, a schedule here. It's called an A, B, C, D schedule. Because of the hybrid model, we've been running only an A and C schedule. That is still also staying the same. So every Monday is always an A day, and every Tuesday is always a C day. What that does is it allows students on Monday to have phys ed, and on Tuesday they would have health. It balances off those part-time classes and makes sure we have enough classes and balances out. Though that cycle will not change, that will stay the same, where it stays the same letter day. I know that gets a little confusing because cohorts of letters, day cycles of letters, but it really is just for our part-time classes like phys ed, health, part-time art, that affects. But that stays the same where, and the students understand that, and that does not change their schedule. The only thing that really changes for students is if they only came Monday and Tuesday, now they come Thursday and Friday as well, or vice versa. Everything else still stays the same. If anybody has any questions at any time, please feel free to go ahead and give me a call here at school. Please feel free to email me at any time that you need something. I'll get back to you as quickly as I possibly can. Feel free to reach out to the appropriate grade level administrators and counselors if you have any concerns with your child coming back to school, or if you want your child to come back to school. We'll be glad to assist with that as well. But I don't see any other questions currently in the chat room. So again, this will be available on our website tomorrow for anybody who missed it. We're going to put this video up, or if you want to go back and replay something so that you're able to watch it again. And we will go ahead and hopefully see all of you in person sooner than later. I wish you all a wonderful evening. I hope you all stay healthy and safe and enjoy the spring weather. Thank you all so much for joining us tonight.